House Amendment 2 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I will withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 2 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 3 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. I will withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 3 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 4 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. This amendment, colleagues, will ensure that the Speaker of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Representatives appoint a joint committee to study the possible implications of this legislation on local law enforcement's ability to prevent crime effectively. The joint committee shall conduct a study and report the results to the General Assembly. The consequences of this legislation are well known. We've had Mr. Rodney Wells, Ms. Ravon Wells come here, ask that this bill be rolled so they have time for further conversation. Everybody's a little shocked that this has come up today. And what we know is, as it relates to the ordinances passed in the wake of Mr. Tyree Nichols' death, that a lot of the consequences of pretextual traffic stops do not fall equitably or evenly on the demographics of people for which it happens. And so with this legislation, we need to study it. We need to understand more what the consequences of this are going to be for our constituents and for the people who are going to be impacted by it. Being informed legislators is a part of our responsibility, and so this would, included in this legislation, if it moves forward, ensure that we actually study its implications and prepare for the effect that it is going to have to our local law enforcement. And so with that, I move for adoption.
Very good. Representative Pearson moves adoption of amendment number 4. That's properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Leader Lamberth.
Move previous question on the amendment.
Previous question has been called. Any objection? We're voting on amendment number 4. All those in favor of adopting amendment number 4, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Barrett's no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 24, 68 nays.
Amendment number 4 fails. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 5 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. I withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 5 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 6 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, Memphis Police Department is currently under a pattern in practice investigation by the Department of Justice. This came in the wake of Mr. Tyree Nichols' death, but it also came in the wake of a lot of people in our constituency of Shelby County paying more attention to what is going on and asking, and even colleagues here, asking that the Department of Justice help us to improve our local law enforcement agency. If during the time that this investigation is happening and its results lead to the need for ordinances to be passed in order for the negative pattern and practices to cease, then this policy, this legislation would no longer be in effect. And the reason that that matters is because, as has been mentioned, this legislation in particular targets efforts being made by people in Memphis and people in Shelby County to make our streets safer for all of our constituents. We want to make sure that the Department of Justice's investigation and the results therein allow for our streets to be safer for everybody, allow for our community to be safer for everybody. And we do not want this legislation to override the good work that has happened by the Wells family. It is not being supported. This legislation is not being supported by Mayor Paul Young or our city council. And so our community does not want this. And so this ensures that if the Department of Justice's pattern and practice investigation calls for some substantial changes to happen to our police department to ensure that it does the work that they are supposed to do without targeting, without hurting and harming our community, that this legislation preventing that from happening will no longer be in effect for our community. We have to ensure that there are some checks on the things that are happening in our communities and allow for local control of that. And so with that, Speaker, I move adoption.
Representative Pearson moves adoption of amendment number 6 properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Speaker Pro Tem Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call previous question.
Previous question been called. Is there objection? There's objection. We're on previous question. All those in favor of previous question on amendment number 6, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 68, 24 nays.
Previous question prevails. We're voting. All those in favor of adopting amendment number 6, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 28, 65 nays.
Amendment number 6 fails. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 7 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. I will remove this amendment, withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 7 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 8 by Representative Pearson. Mr. Speaker, was timely filed.
Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I will withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 8 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.